welcome to today's session. So today we're going to take a look at the music industry, and in the music industry we are going to look at the key components of the music industry. Under the key components, we're going to look at the key players, who make up the music industry. Then under that, we're going to look at the process of music production, and if time will allow us, we are going to look at that at a practical point of view. Then we're going to look at the stages of music production. After that, we're going to look at some examples of the people and the groups that are actively involved in music production, groups and people. And then after that, we're going to look at something called music copyright and the Music Copyright Society of Kenya, also known as the MCSK. So allow me to move to the next slide. We're going to look at the music industry. So the music industry is a network of creatives, people who make music, people who listen to music, the producers, songwriters, and collecting societies. And also to add on, a very key component of the music industry is the consumer, like yourself and myself. So number one, we have the artists. So these artists are the people who create the music and perform music. We have a very good notable examples which I would like you to share in the coming few bits of this session today. So popular artists are usually recognized even up to worldwide, and other artists, unfortunately, they do not leave our villages or our areas for that matter. But we're going to look at these factors that make some musicians to grow as big as they become and others remain where they are. It's called artist development. Then number two, we have the producers. So the producers are the people who work alongside the artists, the people who work alongside the music writers, so as to ensure that they can record their music and mix it to their accompaniments, and sometimes even create the accompaniments themselves. And then they do something called mastering of the song, which mostly is usually allow me to join this person. Yes. So they're the people who actually record and mix the songs and master the songs so that the audios can actually come out good. So you realize there are some producers who are actually the reasons why the artists have grown, and there are some producers who unfortunately sometimes are the reasons why the musicians do not grow as much. And then we also have songwriters. So in the industry, there are people who write songs, just the way there are some in the film world. There are people who write these movies, but they don't act in them, so they don't appear whatsoever in them. So in music, it's also the same way. There are people who write lyrics, melodies, and structures of songs, and then they take the music and give it to artists so that they can be performed with the touch that the music actually deserves. And then we also have collecting societies like MCSK and Warner Bros. Music, Universal Music Corporation, that ensures that musicians and artists are usually paid for whatever they're doing for the piece of work that they do. Then for our key players, of course, there are people who we don't talk about that much, but we have the recording engineers, we have the sound engineers who ensure that the instruments that these people use or the equipment that these people use and operate are at the optimum level of using. So all the way from recording to mixing, these engineers and producers usually ensure that you get quality output from the music people have in mind. So the producers oversee the whole process, and then the engineers use the equipment to ensure that they capture high quality recordings. And then we have the mixing engineers who actually refine the sounds deep down. So we've said singers and songwriters are very important because just like yourself and myself, I'm hoping we are either singers, songwriters, or music performers, because according to our Bootcamp registration files, I was able to see that that some of us are actually good in some instruments. Others were saying yesterday they are good in theory. Others were saying they are more practical. But it depends. So we have a few examples of singers and songwriters. So on your screen, you can see we have Giuliani, who is popularly known as Giuliani, but his actual name is Julius Owino. He's been in the Kenyan music industry for a good amount of time and has actually made an impact. So maybe some 2-3 people can unmute, or you can raise your hand. There is this emoji that is showing a palm. You tap on it to us to raise your hand and tell us who your favorite singer songwriter is and why. Yes, Kezia.
Okay, me, my favorite songwriter is Celine Dion.
Yes.
Sorry for that. My favorite songwriter is Celine Dion. I just like, okay, she portrays emotions. When you listen to her songs, you can feel her emotions. And basically, in my opinion, I think she sang those songs through experience.
Very well. We have a huge fan of Celine Dion, who we've been told captures her audience through emotions. These emotions, we're going to show you how they were created on, I think it's day 4, day 5. Yes, we're going to see how even you in your music, you're going to create emotions such as them. I saw another hand up, alafu ikashuka chini, ndio. Victor. Victor, yes.
So for me, my favorite songwriter is Leon Thomas. Not many people know him, but he's a songwriter and a recorder and a producer. He's done some good work, and I like him because he uses a lot of instruments and he's very expressive in his music.
Very well. So your favorite musician, in as much as we do not know them, we see that these musicians are quite they are should we call them popular or famous for that matter. So you've noted that he's a man of diversity, and this means his texture is well placed and good enough. Thank you so much, Victor. Anyone else, one last person with a favorite musician? Ile kuinua mkono ni ile kamkono imechorwa hapo kwa screen. Yes, Mary.
Alright, my favorite musician and songwriter is Taylor Swift. As a person who loves poetry and literature, I think she delivers her lyrics in an artistic way. And I think this is just art in itself, and her songs are melodic, and I basically think she's a good storyteller, and that's what I really love.
Very nice. Taylor Swift is very poetic and melodic at the same time, making her a very good musician. Mr. Salano, your hand is up. Ayadi. Very nice.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can get you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can get you. Tunakupata.
Okay. Yes. So, my favorite musician varies. Okay. So I was saying, in terms of favorite musician or artist, but I was saying, in terms of favorite musician or artist, it varies. You know, this day I can have a favorite one, tomorrow a new one. So I think for the last month,
My favorite was the Marathon daughter, the one who sang Mamsaki Chito. I hope you know her. One
Yep.
thing about her is I feel her favorite because I like the song. It's captivating. Yeah, and it has gained a lot of views. So by that, I think she became my favorite. So let me see this man who will be my favorite. Yeah, take it.
Very well, very well. Kila mwezi na mtu wake. So Marakwet's daughter, last year was your month, so next month amengoja kuovetikiwa. Very nice. So people can have various you can see kumekuwa na ule wa Celine Dion, Taylor Swift, the Marakwet's daughter, which means music is diverse, and it all comes down to taste. What exactly is your specific taste as a person? So personally, in as much as they went on an indefinite hiatus, my favorite musician was the Sauti Soul. This is because from their music you could see it grow, you could see them grow, the Kenyan music and the Kenyan music industry taking it out to the world. In as much as they started in 2005, they have struggled their way up, and you can see how diverse they actually are. When it comes to emotional songs, they are there. When it comes to songs you can dance and listen to, it's there. When it comes to very educative songs on very educative matters in society, they are always there. So that is another example. Now hii tushaangalia who is your favorite musician. Now let's look at music producers. So music producers, they have specific roles in music production. And when you look at this, you will find number one, they usually organize recording sessions. So as an artist, as a musician, when you want to record your music, you will obviously contact the music producer. And after contacting the music producer, you will agree, the two of you, on when to do a session and what kind of session exactly. Because session number one, you can go there, you only have the lyrics and the melody that you have in your head. So when you reach there, the person will listen to you and know the kind of musician you are, and then you can discuss the kind of genre you want to do, and then the kind of a vibe, we call it a vibe, I'm not sure exactly what word it's supposed to bear. Then after getting these two aspects from you, then the producer is then going to try out and create a backup, or what we call an accompaniment for you. They are mostly referred to as beats. So in the beat making process will also be available so that you can hear and listen to how these things look, the backup sounds. If you need changes here and there, of course you can go and ask for them. And then another thing they do is also they oversee the recording process, which means they usually sit there and listen to the music that you are singing, and then they'll try to correct you here and there. And mostly you will find that some musicians usually do very many takes depending on the level of music prowess that they have, which we're also asking you what was the level of your music prowess. And some of us are advanced, intermediate, others are beginners, others said none. So the music producer is there to guide you depending on your level of music prowess, so that the output can actually be a quality output. And also they are here to make creative decisions. Your lyrics must be good, but they might need an additional touch, and because the producer has been around, maybe if they've been around for a while, they might be key at guiding you in what exactly to do and where exactly. So with me, I have a few examples of music producers. I have Teddy Josiah, I have Clement Rapudo, and I have Magic's Eng. Then we also have collection agencies. Collection agencies are the agencies which stand up for these musicians. So they are agencies that are usually put in place either by the government or by the musicians themselves to ensure that musicians and their welfare has been handled properly. So you will find one, they will collect unpaid debts on behalf of the music companies and the music individuals. Let's say, for example, if a musician goes to perform in a particular event and has not yet been paid, this agency can follow up and ensure that this musician actually gets paid. And then number two, they're usually there to actually put up some legal action for the welfare of these musicians, to ensure that the musicians are well kept and they receive close to 100% of the output which their music is supposed to give. And then number three, they're there for regulation. Allow me to comment this, but in Kenya, yes, we have a variety and a very diverse culture and musicians, but there are some musicians, allow me to mention, like Embarambamba, who as a musician, we cannot say he is not talented. Yes, he has a good producer, yes, but sometimes the content that is put across by musicians like himself needs to be regulated. You need to pull down some of this, or you need to actually give these musicians guidelines that they should adhere to, so as to ensure that their impact in society is not badly affected. I can also give an example. In the year 2008, the boys band Sauti had a song called Nishike. The music, the video, the background video was now accentuating the music itself, and now that they are not given out a rating for age, for instance, the music had to be shut down and banned indefinitely. But of late, I've seen it in various platforms, so I guess the ban was lifted. So the collection agencies are usually there to ensure that musicians are there, they are protected and they are regulated, and then they are paid well, and then all the things that the musicians need, they can actually get through this. So the agencies, they play a very important role for these musicians. Now let us take a look at the music production process. So number one, a musician gets an idea, a musician or songwriter for that matter. They get an idea. Last bootcamp, that musical idea, we referred to it as a motif. So once the musician has come up with a motif, they can develop their motif through the various methods of music development that we discussed last time. They come up with verses, bridges, chorus, and then they put up an entire song, which mostly is a standard of 3 to 4 minutes, but it depends on the genre. For example, when we go to Zilizopendwa za kina Franco, he used to do a song of around 8 to 13 minutes. Lately, there is a new genre called Amapiano, whereby the musicians usually go up to around 5 to 7 minutes, but the standard that we are used to is a 3 to 4 minutes song. So once this musician has a motif and has developed it to come up with a lyric, a melody, and the motif has actually been developed to a full complete song, they move on to the next part called pre-production. So pre-production is whereby the musician meets up with the producer and they actually start looking at the few aspects that the music has. So of course the musician will have to perform this song for the producer, then the producer will listen intensively so as to know the arrangement of the song, the texture, and what kind of texture that needs to be added to the song. Then in music, of course, different keys usually insinuate different types of genres and moods for songs. For instance, key G major is usually the brightest key in music, and you cannot write a sad song in the key of G major. So if it's a sad song, if it's a very happy song, we can give it the key of G major, or is it A major, I think. And then for sad pieces of music, we can give them minor keys, A minor or E minor. So these are the aspects that are usually looked at during pre-production. So during pre-production, we look at the genre, then we look at the mood, and then we look at the instrumentation of these music, so that we can actually know what to do when we get to the studio. Then in between pre-production and recording, this is usually whereby the producer or the production team usually comes up with the accompaniment, popularly referred to as beats for this given track. And then after it has been taken there will be rehearsals, whereby this musician tries to rehearse with the backup that they've been given to see whether or not it's fitting and not. And if it's not, then the adjustments are done where fit be. Then after that, we go to a segment called editing. So editing is where the music, the snippets of voices are edited to remove noise, unnecessary breathing, because sometimes when we sing, we kama hauna gas, sometimes you tend to breathe a bit too much, and when you breathe, the microphone picks everything. So during the editing, this is where things like that are removed, and then when you have cracks in your voice, they are removed, and also this is where they play about the dynamics of the song to ensure that the beats that are being played behind and the beats and your voice are actually coming together very well. And then mixing is now the final touches, whereby there is balancing and blending of the tracks so as to add effects like reverb, and then maybe tempo changes if is needed. And then finally there is mastering. This is where you have final polishing and loudness adjustment down to the stereo mix down. So you can have a mono audio, or you can have something called stereo. So mono audio is where all the sounds produced are come out of a singular speaker. Let's say even if you have a set of 3 speakers, all the sounds, when you're using mono audio, all sounds will come from the 3 speakers. But when you're doing stereo, you can find some drum patterns are coming out of the left speaker, some drum patterns are coming out of the right speaker, and others are coming out of the middle speaker. So all this is usually done during the mastering period. Then after mixing and mastering, whenever the musician seems fit, they can go look for a distributor, or if they, mostly in Kenya we don't have that many music distributors, so mostly in Kenya that the musician, after mixing and mastering, they just go ahead and release the song. But traditionally, after the music production process, now the musician will go and look for a company that will actually be able to stand up for him, so that the music can actually go out and be distributed well, so that the musician can actually get paid. And then I think that's the recording process. So we are going to look at Quincy Jones. So Quincy Jones is also another example of a record producer, multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, composer, arranger, film and television producer, who has had a career span of over 60 years in the entertainment industry, with a record 80 Grammy Awards nominations, then with 28 Grammys and a Grammy Legend Awards. So he's been there working with people like Michael Jackson, producing the albums of The Wall, Thriller and Bad, as well as charity single We Are the World. So Quincy Jones is one of the big giants in the music industry, and as a music producer and instrumentalist. Then we shall move on to the digital music revolution. So back in the day, we can see that music has given a very big step towards improving and actual development, because back in the day, I remember for a musician to actually do some good music, they had to actually find themselves after writing the songs, the melody, and developing the motif for their 3-4 minutes, they would actually have to go and start looking for these instruments. So you go look for drums, you go look for a guitar, you go look for a piano, and then you get these together. You actually even find the people to actually play those instruments, so that can happen. Then after that, the only place these people could sell their music was to radio stations and maybe physical forms like cassettes, and even before compact discs came around. And you find in these particular cases, musicians didn't earn as much as they do right now, but it was a big journey and a big step. So we can see technological advancements in music production and selling. You'll find in 1925 electrical recording of music allowed for higher fidelity recording. So in this particular juncture is where we went away from the, was it called the so something gram, This is whereby you put this stick and then it picks the sound patterns from a spinning compact disc like something. Then as it spins, it actually gets the sound and puts it out on speaker. So this is where now electrical recordings came by. Then in 1948, the vinyl LP record was introduced and it would play much longer. In 1979, we call it the Walkman. This is a portable cassette player which people believe it's still around up to date because nikienda ushago huwa naiona sana. And then in 1982 is where the compact disc or the CD came and brought digital audio to the mainstream. In 1999, there's something called Napster enabled free music file sharing over the internet. So this is where now music took a troll in over the internet. So musicians, after recording their music, they release their music physically and virtually through file sharing across the internet. Then in 2001, the company Apple produced a product called an iPod, and an iPod was a small electronic device that was used mostly for listening to music. Then 2008, Spotify, YouTube, you name it all, whereby musicians could upload their music for us to find and use it. So we are going to look at the differences between digital and analog music production, whereby you find digital music production we are using computers and softwares and DAWs, those are digital audio workstations, to actually record, edit and produce music. And while analog music production used analog equipments like the tape machines, the mixing consoles and the effects units, they actually had big and very, but you find of late, even me with my laptop over here, I can actually create a complete track. I do all the mixing, mastering and final production, and then I put it out there. But you find that during the analog days it was actually much more difficult because this kind of technology was not there. So digital has opened up more possibilities for editing and manipulation, and in as much as when it comes to digital music production, it's much faster. We feel like analog music is much more natural. Like for instance, if I picked up a song from Franco from the 1990s and I get Mukuchu, and we compare the two, you'll get that there is a touch. There is a touch that the music of Franco has that Kinamukuchu and TikToker do not have. This is because that music was produced analog, meaning the real actual instruments were there. But with the digital audio workstations, it's just a mimicking of those sounds. Like for instance, with this instrument, I can just maybe pick a cup over here and I hit it as I record. Then when I record that sound of me hitting a cup, I can actually manipulate it to create chords and a whole new instrument, which was almost impossible to do back in the day. So the texture and actually the timbre or the tone quality has changed a lot over the years, and yes, sometimes it gets better, and for other instances it has gotten worse. So for digital, the advantages we have, you can edit as much as you want, as much as you can, without losing quality. This is because it's digital and it's not actually a recording, because you can actually produce the sound yourself digitally, unlike the other times where you had to look for the sound and play it, and then the more you edit it, the more it might lose or increase in quality until maybe you have to record it again just in case. And then so analog, the advantage was that it was warm and natural, and then it was hands-on hardware workflow. Then nowadays it's easier to share music online because of technology and the internet, but back then people had to walk and travel so much. Like I read an article about this musician called what's his name? Yeah, I've forgotten the name. They had to travel from Kenya to go to South Africa so that they could actually record their music. And so they even had to carry their traditional instruments, people with their litungus and obokanos and drums, isukuti. they and you see back then the way flights were that expensive, so they even had to go all the way up to South Africa so as to get music. But thanks to digital music and advancements, we actually it becomes easier. So on the disadvantages, you need a computer, and sometimes audio can sound artificial, just like I've told you, because it actually depends on where that sound was first picked from. Because I've told you, if I just hit a cup over here, they pick a glass and hit it, the way this glass sounds may not be the same as the way some other glass sounds, and now you'd find the sound is becomes it varies from place to place, and sometimes we call it now artificial. Now for analog, they are saying the more you duplicate the song, the more it degrades, and also it is not as portable as music is nowadays. So nowadays 80% of music production that takes place nowadays is usually done by digital audio workstations. When I talk about digital audio workstations, I talk about softwares like FL Studio and such of the sort, whereby you actually create melodies and chords without actually playing an instrument. So meaning you're creating these sounds digitally. And then 60% nowadays is done by MIDI controllers. This is whereby an instrument is played, but it has been connected electrically to a computer that actually picks up the strings as they are being strummed, or rather the chords as they are being played, and picks them through MIDI. Then software synthesizers is almost as similar as digital audio workstations. And then now the digital effects and plugins are prepared things that are actually usually there. You just take them and apply them onto your music so as to make it better in terms of texture, timbre, and ornaments. And then 30% of music nowadays is done analog, using the analog mixers. So we can talk about the evolution of music production. So in 1877 is when the phonograph, the phonograph is what I was talking about. That is when it was first created, and it was allowed the recorded music to be played more and more and more. This is unlike before, where people had to actually go and attend a concert so as to listen to a song and then maybe play it from memory. Then in 1948, the 331 over this is 33 and a third RPM long playing vinyl. I think this is 33 and a third minutes, I think. So for longer recordings that allowed you to play longer music, because nowadays I know you can have a mobile phone that has close to 5 GB of music only, which you can play and play and play for a whole day, but your phone is still available. So we thank technology for that. Then in 1982 the CD was launched, and the CD it used light. The CD, of course, it uses light. So when a CD uses light, it actually becomes much easier. Now, technological advancement. So we have talked about the phonograph. That was in 1877, whereby recordings were played for the first time. And then we talked about the radio. So the radio is allowed for wireless transmissions of audio signals through radio waves. So they define we have a radio station somewhere, and then they put up wire transmitters, and then when your radio, it has an area which is a receiver, so it receives the area where the radio waves from whichever station you want them to play from, so that you can actually play your music. And then there's the cassette tape, which was introduced in 1960s, which was more portable and you could actually record on cassette. So funny enough, I have interacted with the cassette, not once, not twice, but I'm still wondering how this thing is able to actually record the sound. Like, I could be talking and then it could just be spinning, but at the end of the time you will find that it has recorded, or rather even recorded, what is being played by the same cassette. But well, technology. Then we also have the compact disc from 1982, and then the very recent, we call it MP3 file format. So MP3 file format is what we've been exposed to of late, CC Kama Gen Z. That is what we've grown up listening to, and that is what we've had with us of late. Now, music distribution channels, we have streaming streaming is where you have things like Apple Music, Spotify, Boomplay, you name it all. This is whereby you just go onto the platform and listen to these people's music. And then we have digital downloads. This is where you go to these streaming channels, find the link, and actually download the music into your own devices so that you can play them locally. So in terms of revenue, that accounts for 25%. And then we have physical sales. This is where people used to go and sell compact discs and sell the cassettes so as to get paid, but that is dying out and dying out. Then synchronization accounts for 3%. So digital downloads is music downloaded directly from online, Spotify and Apple Music. And then you also have YouTube, whereby people can listen to music and watch music videos for free. So digital channels make music more accessible, but unfortunately they generate less revenue for artists as compared to physical sales. This is because I can actually download the music from an artist without them getting paid, because I can actually get it either from a legitimate site or from an illegitimate site. Because so far I only know of one streaming site that you actually pay to listen to the music directly. It's called Apple Music. Like you see, they'll put up the name of the song and the composer, and then they put the price. So you go pay the price and then you listen to the song. Spotify, yes, you have to pay for membership and subscriptions, but I later came to realize that most of this song most of the money, that is collected by Spotify does not reach the artists. It only ends there, which is sad. YouTube also has payment patterns for musicians and music, whereby you are required to have it's a watch time of 1,000 hours, and is it 1,000 hours or 100 hours of watch time? Then you need to have at least 1,000 subscribers so that you can earn either from the views you get on your content or through adverts. Now, physical music sales versus streaming, you'll find 15%. I'm not sure if this is percent or this rate goes to physical sales. Then downloads is 2.1 and streaming is 8.8. So physical sales are the most paying for musicians, and then downloads are the least paying, while streaming is moderate or medium. So Spotify is one of the streaming platforms that you know, and it allows musicians to actually listen to songs. And it was launched in 2008 in Sweden and has grown to become one of the world's largest music streaming platforms, with over 381 million active users as of 2022. Let's look at the contribution of the radio to music industry. Funny enough, because I cannot remember the last time I listened to a radio station. But regardless, not like I don't have a radio, I do, yes. But the radio is playing nowadays in this technological era. We just use the radio to amplify our Spotify's and our YouTubes to actually listen to them as much. So the contributions of the radio, we can say it has expanded the music reach, because of course in a household, not even in a household, in a plot of land, for instance, I know tomorrow morning someone is going to wake me up with very loud music. So through these radios, the music of these musicians is actually able to go wide and wide. You see hapa first floor, we have one very notorious neighbor who plays very loud music at 7 a.m. in the morning, and ni mtu wa Afrobeat. So unapata mtu kama mimi, I am actually a fan. Sasa nitaamka tusikize pamoja. But if you are not a fan yourself, you might actually end up having a negative attitude towards this music, because unaamshwa na Afrobeat na wewe ni mtu wa kanisa. How? Then number 2, it allowed music discovery, just like I've said. If my neighbor blasts some music and I tend to like it, I'll actually look for the music myself some other time and listen to it. Then increased music sales. I can say that during the radio times, when before the internet, when it was just radio and TV, is when musicians actually were able to earn well through music sales. and then it also boosted music career. This whereby I'll listen to your music through the radio, and then I'll want to come to and attend to your concert because I've actually heard that the quality of your music is actually nice. Now, I want us to take a 5-minute break, and then when we come back, I want us to go through the music production process, and then we see how actually this music is usually created, so that we can know from how exactly it feels like to be inside a studio, in as much as uko kwa nyumba yako, niko kwa nyumba yangu, but we actually get to see the feel of a studio. Sawa sawa. So let's have a 5-minute break. At 8:40 we continue from here.